What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview. Every single week, I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and strip top badasses that they're dominating their spaces. People choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, guys, we've got another amazing rock star guest on the show. So I guess you guys jumped into the real estate game at a very young age. And by the time he was 24 years old, he had sold more than $40 million of real estate, which led him then to creating the number one real estate team in the Carolinas, doing over $140 million annually in gross volume sales. And during that journey, he developed a vision of creating a well-respected, high-return investment firm, which he has now made that vision a reality by founding and creating QC Capital, which is a real estate investment firm that now owns more than 360 units with over a $40 million portfolio that he is managing. So I'm stoked and honored to have Chris Salerno on the podcast. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much. Ooh, I love your energy. I mean, I think that was the best one I've ever been on because I've been on a lot of these, but I think your intro is the best. I love that energy. Ooh, I love it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Well, it's hard not to get energetic and excited, man, when I know. Get pick brains like yours all day, you know, right?
I love it. I love it.
I mean, dude, you're this, young dude that's had a ton of success, continuing to just kick ass and continuing to level up, man. And before we get into all the things that you're doing today, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led him here in the first place. So rewind the clocks, man, because you got into real estate at a really young age.
I did.
How did this journey begin, and why real estate? How real estate?
I'm glad you touched on it. Why real estate is I've always had a passion for real estate. I don't know what it was, but I've always had a passion. I was just recently in Orlando for business, and my fiance and the kids were in the car, and I said, I want to show you where I grew up. And it was a small house. I mean, 2 doors down, it was a house that was boarded up. Their windows were boarded up. I mean, it was a rough area. I said, I want to take you to a neighborhood that we used to sneak under the gates and just ride my bike through the neighborhood. And these were I'd say 600 to $1 million homes. And I would just look at these homes and I'd say, one day I'm going to be in one of those homes. So it was something about real estate I enjoy. It's always different. And I decided coming right out of college, I'm not a big college person. I left college after a year and a half, got into real estate. And to believe it or not, this is my 3rd year mentoring the business department at my previous college. And I'm giving a speak to another college in November. But I've always had a passion for real estate, and I wanted a job that would compare to my work ethic, because I knew I would outwork my competition, and I wanted my income to follow my work ethic. And I hopped straight into real estate because it all comes down to your work ethic and how hard are you willing to outbeat your competition. And that's what I did, and the income I didn't even worry about the income because I knew it would follow my work ethic. So that's why I got into real estate sales.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Love it, dude. And it seems like those that grow up in lower income, let's just say environments, like it sounds like maybe you did, it seems like they go one of two paths. Either it creates this massive drive and they just go out there and, do big things, or they just, typically have entitlement or just kind of stay in that trap of lower middle class or lower income. But a lot of times with that drive, maybe they had a model or a mentor because you're not exposed to a lot of success, growing up in that environment. Correct. Did you have, somebody like that in your life that you kind of had as an inspiration to create that drive at a young age, or, was it something else?
I think that's a great question. My parents are not good with money. It takes I believe these successful individuals know how money flows. They know how the path of money flows, so they know how to deal with it very well. My parents were not good with that, even though what really opened my eyes was my father taking me to work at a very young age to understand business. Even though he wasn't good with how money was handling, but I got to understand the business aspect of everything. And from there, really understanding that, I saw a lot of successful people, and I said, well, I want to study success. I want to study how I was always intrigued how a business failed and how they succeeded. So I would Google any billionaire I'd hear, I'd Google that billionaire, and I'd find out what company they're running, what trials and errors did this person face, why is their company successful? successful? Why did they reach those trials and errors? How did they overcome them? So I mean, I probably studied, there's 2,000 United States, a little over 2,000 United States billionaires. I probably studied more than half of them by just Googling them, reading about them, why they succeeded and why did they run into some roadblocks. So I think that was a really big part, was opening my eyes to business at a very young age, and then me wanting to run with it to figure out, okay, there's an extremely amount there's an extreme amount of success out there. How did these individuals reach that success? And believe it or not, I've read a handful of books on billionaires. They all have one trait in mind, and it comes around that same time where their success just blows up and takes to the next level. So yeah, I mean, it was really understanding business at a very young age and then taking it to the next level by studying successful people.
Yeah, awesome, dude. So then you attempted college for that year and a half, before you decided to go another route. Like, what happened there? I mean, you must have had an aha moment where you're like, all right, I got to change this trajectory.
You're right. Yeah. I had a couple aha moments. I was a Division I track sprinter. So I ran Division I track. Loved it. But one aha was student loans. Right now, the United States owns $1.54 trillion in student loan debt. And I realized very quickly that college is the best business. College is guaranteed the money from the government. Then the student or the kid has to pay the government back. And that is the only loan you cannot file for bankruptcy, is a student loan. So I said, why am I going to be forced, no matter how much I make when I get this piece of paper outside after I graduate, why would I be forced to pay someone back based off of this sort of education? So that was an aha. And then, to believe it or not, for the college I was attending, you had to have 18 credits per that college to graduate from that college. And my advisor said I needed to take a walking class. And I said, with all due respect, I'm 22 years old. I've been walking for 18 years. Why do I need to take a walking class? She says, it's a credit to graduate. You have to do it. And that right there, I was like, okay, this is a big business. And I said, I'm out. And that's when I really opened my eyes to real estate. I've always put my back against the wall. So I hopped straight into, I was working 2 jobs at the time. I don't watch TV much. I watch a lot of documentaries, but I hopped straight into real estate from those 2 jobs I was working, and put my 2 weeks notice in, and had a little small amount saved up. But I told myself I will make it work and I will not fail.
So chips all in, burn the ships, man. I love it, dude. Right? So no choice, but you're either going to sink or swim, man.
That's right.
So when you jump in, dude, because I mean, so many real estate agents, that first year is so pivotal, so important.
Correct.
Right? I mean, we know the failure rate, 90% don't make it past 3 years. And like, walk us through, man, like, what did you do then? Because it's one of these things where we go to real estate school, they don't teach us anything about creating success. And then when you learn it, it can take another 6 months before money starts coming in. Like, what did you do out of the gate early on before you created the team to create the success that you did?
Yeah, great question. So I was operating that team. So to get to that point, to then go ahead and be their COO of that team, that first year, like you said, it's a 98% failure rate when it comes to real estate. The biggest thing that I don't treat it, a lot of people treat it as just maybe like a second job, or, oh, they'll sell one house here or there. I treated it like a company. I said, okay, I'm going to build a company, a business. How am I need systems in place. I knew at that time cold calling was the biggest thing. I knew that people hated cold calling, but I knew that's where the money's at. My thing was open houses too. My first year, I did over 75 open houses. And the reason why is because I wanted to build relationships with those individuals. And I really think the open houses did project my business to the next level because of the strong relationships I built, not only with the sellers that lived in those neighborhoods, but with those buyers too. But it was really cold calling. I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to YouTube videos and listened to way people would word sentences. And I was big about wording sentences is and how do you structure a sentence, and how do you speak to someone. And I really honed in on that. So then that really projected my sales level. So when I would cold call someone, I knew what to say. I knew how to build that relationship on a very close and quick basis, to where they will get me out in their home that afternoon or that next day. And then I will build another rapport with them to then get them to sign a listing agreement. So I would say it was really cold calling open houses was my first year to project my business. But I think that biggest part of that failure with that large of a percentage for real estate sales is two things. One, people don't fail. The fear of them doing something or the doubt of them trying to do something is the biggest failure in people. So the doubt of, oh, should I make that phone call to that expired, or, oh, should I make that phone call to that withdrawn? They're on the edge of making that phone call. You just got to pick up the phone and do it. I mean, there's been countless times I've done that and I've called a number and it says it's been disconnected. I'm like, well, why did I wait 10 minutes to call a number that's been disconnected? We all have done that when we sold residential. So that right there, I was just like, okay, well, I just need to pick up the phone, call. Then I started training people to call. Then I started training buyer's agents to call, how to say it, how to word you don't want to come off just from a script because anyone can tell you're reading off a script. So it's how to word it, how to bounce off, how to build that relationship very quickly. And I think that's what landed me in the position of operating the number one team in the Carolinas.
Yeah, love it, man. So then, because a lot of agents will hide behind the excuse of, well, I didn't know what to do to succeed. But it's
Correct.
like, dude, there's endless amount. And I think in real estate, there's probably more free information available than any other industry.
There's everything. Go to YouTube. Listen to your podcast. It's free.
So it's the thing of maybe not tapping into, maybe not wanting it enough.
Correct.
The success enough to overcome, like you said, those fears. At that time, were you really clear on what you wanted
yes.
to overcome those fears? And if so, a lot of people have a tough time, like, oh shit, I got to find my why, find my purpose, and it can be hard to do. Like, what did you tap into, especially with not having a lot of life experiences at that young of an age? Like, what'd you do to tap into that?
The biggest thing what I did to tap into that is, and I realized this, and I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that I rode my bike around a neighborhood of wealthy people, even though I didn't live in that neighborhood, but I told myself that is where I want to be. And I was talking to someone actually earlier this morning. We were having coffee, and I told him, I said, I will probably never reach my limit. And the reason why is because my limit's always going to keep growing. I'm going to keep pushing myself. If I got close to it, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do this. I want to push myself as hard as possible. I guess that's just my mentality. I want to push myself as hard as possible to see if I break. But I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think it came from finding my big why is, unfortunately, money buys everything in the world. Money buys everything. So you need money to live a good life in the world. So I knew that I needed a lot of money. So my goal is to become a billionaire. I know I will achieve it. And I have doubters that doubt me on that, which I love because that just fuels my fire. And I knew brokerage in real estate was just a stepping stone to where I am at today with creating my private equity company to buy large multifamily real estate. So it was that big why of the doubters. It was that big why of knowing money buys everything. And then also my biggest and truest why is that leaving a legacy. And the way I see I could leave a legacy is that how many people's family tree I can help become financially free by investing in real estate. To me, that's leaving a legacy. So if I can do that at a higher level, then I have achieved my big why or my goal. And when it comes down to it, the more money you have, the more people you can help. Plain and simple. You can do so much in charity work. You can do so much in giving back. But if you have more money, you can help more individuals. So I realized that very quickly, and I set myself on that goal, and I know I will achieve it, and there's no one to stop me.
Yeah. So I was listening to a training just on this past Tuesday from one of my mentors, Darren Hardy, and he talked in there about you create based on what you expect, right?
Correct.
So it's all about setting the expectations for yourself. And, you're a guy that's had success in athletics, success now financially and in business. So it sounds like you set the bar high.
Correct.
Right? I mean, would you agree in the truth of that statement?
I agree 100%. Setting the bar high, because who else is there out there to tell you how to set your own bar? You know yourself better than anybody. That's why I said I'll never reach my limit, because I'm setting my bar higher and higher and higher and higher. But you have to envision yourself in your goals. I write daily journals. At the very end of my journals, I write, Chris, you will be a billionaire. All my sticky notes around here, in this board right here, you can barely see it, but it is a goal board, tracker board, and I have my goals on there. So I write it down and I envision myself in it. That's the biggest thing is I think from your mentor, I think he's spot on with that. You have to envision yourself reaching your goal. I envision when I open the door to go out into the garage, I envision the cars I want right there. I envision when I'm driving what apartment complex I'm going to take down next. I envision all that, and the laws of attraction come to you. Believe it or not, I mean, it is laws of attraction is very true. So if you envision it, you set your mind on it, you'll achieve it.
Yeah, and it just goes down to, Think and Grow Rich, right?
That's right.
Hill, he talks,
I love that book.
Visualize yourself pulling up to your house, walking into that dream house, cooking meals in there. And then you hear of the greatest athletes like Michael Phelps, right? Visualizing the race in his head before it actually took place. And it sounds all kook, kind of.
No, it's true.
The greats do it. All the greats do it.
It's true.
It's business, music, whatever, they all do it, man.
I do it every day.
Something that you said earlier on, really perked my interest when you talked about, not just going off of a script, but paying attention to your tonality, right? Because so many people think, or agents will sit there and think, oh, like, what's the best lead source or what's the magical script? And they're focusing on that magical script, but like you're a dude that it seems like you're just focused on mastery, right? And what's it, The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, right? Yeah. He talks about the uptones, downtones, and
it's true.
Something that I haven't taken the time to master, but with your experience of doing that, would you then say that does the script really even matter all that much, or is it more just the delivery and your ability to listen?
Yeah, great question. So the script, I would read the script once and just get the foundation of the script, but never go 100% by the script. And I hope that makes sense to everyone who's listening. Just never go 100% by the script, but get that as a foundation for your script, because each person's different. Each market's different. First, be a market expert. One, if you're going to cold call a withdrawn or expired, know what has sold in that neighborhood, because unfortunately our sellers out there, they have Zillow these days, and they think Zillow is king. So know what has sold in the neighborhood and be a market expert. Once you're a market expert, you will feel that confidence through you. I'm sure you can feel my energy when I talk about real estate, because I love it so much. So they feel that over the phone, and then it depends how you drop the tone of your voice and how you're going to sell them on something. But you got to build a strong relationship first. I think when it comes to it, first thing you should do is build relationships, because when you're connected with someone, then they'll do whatever you say. And that's also good if you need a price reduction, if the house is not selling because a seller thinks it's worth more than what it actually is. They'll trust you on that. So every time I started cold calling, I started finding out what is the quickest way I can build a relationship. Do we have something in common? Do we like the same sports? Do we like the same activities? Are we from the same area? If they said they're from an area, I'd say, well, I always wanted to visit it. If it's an area I always want to visit. So I try to find some similar connection between us, because that right there, they start to build that trust level. And then we start talking about just them. And then I actually let them bring up the property. And then once they start to bring up the property, I start telling them what I can do to get their home sold, and giving them facts about the neighborhood, and they feel my confidence and energy in the property, and then I seal the deal. I have done it so well where last year, I did sell real estate last year. I stopped towards the end of the year to create my company that I have now. I sold a little over 75 homes and just 27 million in volume just last year myself, and then one buyer's agent, and then also running that number one company. I would say about 5 people, I got them to sign a listening agreement just over the phone.
That's crazy, dude. So then to get them know to bring up the home. I mean, when you reach out, because I know you're focusing on the human connection, which I agree 100% matters most. Are you though leading off, like, do they know you're a real estate agent, at this point? I mean, are you leading it off with, identifying who you are and why you're calling, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'll identify who I am while I'm calling. It does help to be on the number one team because you can, but everyone says they're number one in a lot of markets. So, I do let them know up front, why am I calling? But a lot of them, once they do it, well, no, I've heard from 5 agents today. No, I'm not doing it. Oh, wonderful. That's great. And then start ask them about their personal life. Get them off the topic of that no. There's something I watched. I can't remember what it was, but start to get them to say yes. And this is true. If you start to get them to say yes, then when you ask for that last appointment, they're going to go ahead and say yes. And then now you got your appointment. So build that relationship with them. And then, just start to ask, do you still want to sell? Well, if you got if you got that price that you wanted, where would you move to? How quick do you want to be there? And once you start getting that, then you slip in, well, I have availability tomorrow at 9. Love to come out. I'll actually already be in the neighborhood. I never lie. So if there's a house that's on the market, go out and preview that house and then say you're already going to be in that neighborhood, and stop by and just give them information. Don't try to sell them. Try to educate them. And if you do that, it comes across a lot better, that you're trying to help them out and for most of the individuals, this is the biggest financial decision they'll make in their life, with depending on the price point and who the individual is. 98% of the population, it's the biggest financial decision of their life. So just educating them on that and showing them you're a market expert, they love that, and that's how you'll seal the deal. But there's no Kool-Aid to get successful overnight in this business. And a lot of people ask me that, and a lot of people ask for that. What's that special Kool-Aid you drank to, gain success overnight? It's not. It's repetition and staying consistent will gain you the success that you want.
I love it, dude. So, a question that I've asked myself many, 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 many times over the years is, because I'm a systems and processes guy, like in the wealth dynamics, I'm a mechanic, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
tinker, and like I can't visualize new concepts, ideas, but like give me a concept that already exists and I can improve it. And I've thought a lot of times, like, man, should I be the owner of a company, let's just say, or like, would I be a better COO than a CEO is an example. And there's certain businesses, right, that maybe it's flip-flopped or whatever. But, I mean, you've done both of it. And I'm really curious of, because a lot of things, ego gets in the way for a lot of us. And, like at what point did you make the decision to jump on as the COO and run the team and run the operations of it? Instead of just being like, screw, I'm going to become their competitor and create my own team, which is what most realtors go out there and attempt to try to do.
Yeah, great question. Well, I always say this to everybody, and if they're thinking about getting a coach or thinking about doing something, sit down with yourself and what's your goals? Sit down with yourself, spend time by yourself. If you have to go to eat at a restaurant by yourself, just spend your alone time by yourself and sit down and figure out your goals. I knew my goals, brokeraging real estate, would just not achieve my goals. So I always loved the business aspect, and it really merged into it because I went to the CEO and the president of the company. I said, there's some stuff I want to address that I think we could do better as a company and make it more profitable. And I did that, and he was like, wow, you're right. I missed that. And we started implementing that. And then that's when, over just me in that position, just adding value, we made the company 46% profitable in 1 year compared to their 3 years of being stagnant. So just by going in there, and it was a merge where I started adding value on, listen, we need to cut these expenses. We need to train the agents to do this. We need more accountability in the office. We need to get them to cold call. We need to get to them to follow up. If they don't follow up through these leads, then there has to be some type of consequences. So stuff like that. Really, I was always business oriented. I love running a company, and just like in the earlier days, I was saying, I love to understand how a company's operated and how I can make it profitable. So then that's why I did the COO position. or the operations position and didn't just hop out there to start my own team because I knew brokeraging real estate wasn't on the path to reach my end all goal.
Yeah, and what a crazy, insane hack as far as the experience that you get.
I know.
Yeah, right. You're able to jump in and start running a large company without having to spend a decade of your life building it.
Correct.
And reinventing the wheel.
And sitting in the same room as Gary Keller and talking to Gary Keller, the CEO of Keller Williams and some of these other big, large teams that were producing over 500 million in sales a year, just masterminding with them in regards to that was definitely very beneficial. But it's definitely been a big change moving over into the multifamily space.
So when you said get clear on your goals, like really sit down with yourself and get clear on your goals, it sounds like at that point you knew that brokering real estate wasn't going to get you to the B, right? Or there's maybe way more effective and efficient ways to do it. And then you're picking like the next move as a stepping stone. I mean, does that sound about right? Now,
yeah, you're right. You're 100% correct. Yeah. I just, I figured out the next stepping stone to reach my goal. And now I compete with the big hedge funds and the REITs right now, the big Wall Street people, they call it. I compete with them. So definitely big game changer moving over to that type of that space. But yeah, you're 100% correct.
Now, let's just say somebody's listening to this and they're like, look, dude, I don't want to go try to, you get a guy like me that isn't extremely intelligent, that's got to, like, I can't fathom running and operating my own private equity fund, right? So maybe you're like, all right, but I do have a goal of, and I'm not saying me personally, but I'm just saying somebody that's maybe listening of being, the owner of their own large team or own brokerage. Like based on that experience that you have, would you still highly recommend the path that you took? Like, hey, go in this role for 3 to 5 years, do this plug in, right? Because I mean, you're the only guy that I've ever talked to that's necessarily went that path. But I've got to imagine again that just the hack of time to get that level of experience would take a decade or 2 decades.
I know.
If you try to build it on your own, right?
Oh, yeah.
So even if you had the goal of opening your own brokerage or team, like, would you still recommend the route that you went just for the hack of the learning curve?
100%. And hire, I don't know who's the biggest coach in the residential sales, but I would hire a coach because that limits your time and that limits your mistakes. And if something comes up, you can always go back to your coach and say, look, I ran against this roadblock. I need, what are my options? But yes, I would highly recommend, soak up, be a sponge. I don't talk much, to believe it or not. I kind of am an introvert. I don't talk much because if you're talking, you're not listening, which you need to listen to gain the knowledge. So I'm always soaking in as much knowledge as possible, and I'm analyzing millions of things at a time. So I would say yes, to answer your question. Go out there, soak up as ton of knowledge as possible, soak up the operation, the systems. The biggest thing is to add value to your clients and add value to your agents. When you do that, make it a wonderful and fun place to work and to be a part of your clientele. You'll see massive success really in the industry. It's all about customer service these days. Everything's customer service.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then, I mean, all right, so you're young, so you have the time ahead of you to create the vision that you have. You're extremely intelligent.
Thank you.
You love operations, and it sounds like systems and operations really well. So you could have went a lot of different angles, man. You could have jumped into tech. You could have, right? How did you get the clarity and know that, hey, man, I want to jump into real estate, the private equity fund as your next vehicle and venture? Was that always just something that was part of the plan, or did this click at a certain time?
No, that was always not always, because I wanted to be extremely successful, or I was in selling residential, but I knew that I needed to play the game Monopoly, but in real life. I needed to own the real estate. And the only way to do that is to have other people invest in your company, to go out and buy great deals, find the good deals, and to give them a return on their investment and grow a large portfolio. So that's when I really opened my eyes and said, I'm going to specialize in multifamily because, one, it's a necessity. You can't create an app and it just vanishes. And we need a place to live. And during 2008 to 2012, multifamily was a very strong asset class. So I decided to go ahead and focus very heavily on multifamily and grow it into that capacity.
So then walk us through that, man. I mean, yeah, it sounds like the vision was there. When did you know the time was right to make the transition? And then also, right? Like, again, that's an intimidating thing when you're talking about, I gotta go try to raise capital. And especially like multifamilies, like I remember even 5 years ago, it was like easy to go out there and find a 10%, 15% cap rate, but it's become a very saturated market as well.
You are right.
So that I'm sure it's that much more difficult to get funding and to find deals. And right. Like, so walk us through that transition, man.
You are 100% correct. I think the biggest thing is when it comes to it's all about finding a good deal right now. The multifamily industry, everyone wants a piece of it. You want to find a good deal in the multifamily industry. It's very difficult to do so. But we do have a shortage throughout the United States in multifamily. So if you know how to analyze and find a deal, you'll be able to do that. So I would say that was the biggest thing, is finding and analyzing it. The jump, it was extremely difficult. I took a lot of my investors who invested in single family real estate, and I opened their eyes. I said, they always kept saying, well, I'm getting headaches of the tenants, this and that. And I said, well, look what you can do in multifamily. You don't have to do anything. You receive a monthly passive income. The returns are a lot larger, and the biggest thing is the tax benefits. Owning these large properties, we do a cost segregation on these properties, which I don't pay tax at all. So it's very important to implement that for your investors, is the cost segregation portion. But once I made that leap, my actually first one was a 506c, which I was able to market it out. And when I marketed this apartment complex out, everyone thought I was selling a unit. They didn't think, they were like, oh, you're selling a unit. How much is one unit? And I'm like, no, I don't sell real estate anymore. I'm actually buying this apartment complex. So it was a difficult transition at first. I would say it wasn't easy, and it's definitely, like you said, it's not easy raising funds. You have to have a track record. You have to have someone behind you to believe in you to grow a company and to acquire such of a large building. And that's what I had at the time to take the business to where it is today. And currently we're looking at a couple acquisitions over $100 million here in Charlotte. So.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Love it, man. So, it sounds like from everything that you've said thus far, like you take a lot of time doing your research, doing your due diligence, and
be a market expert.
Making sure that you're prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So like what kind of preparation went into, because dude, look, apartments sound great and sexy, right? But you got to know what you're doing.
You have to.
Right. So like, how did you get yourself prepared? Was it representing investors, buying them as the agent first, or like, what did you do to get the education to know that you then have mastered that market?
What you're doing right now. So giving value to individuals. I listen to podcasts just like yours. Someone who is great on the podcast, just like you, that would suck out this information from someone who's speaking like myself. I'd listen to those podcasts. I would read books about it. I'd read books about the law. I'd become a market expert and an expert in the field. And then I said, to limit my mistakes, I need to go ahead and hire a coach. Who's the best coach in the industry? I narrowed that down. I said, I want to be one-on-one with that coach. I don't want any of their coaching clients. I want to be one-on-one with them. And that's what I did. I emailed him. We set up a couple calls. He came at a pretty penny, but he was extremely worth it to leverage his notoriety and his contacts to achieve what I've achieved today and for the future growth of the company.
Yeah, love it. Powerful stuff, dude. So then, when you decide, okay, hey man, we're like, let's launch QC Capital, it's go time. We're ready.
Yeah.
Again, getting that first deal, finding that first deal. Because at this point, you mentioned just a moment ago that you have to have a track record. Well, there's always a time when we don't have a track record.
Every time there's that time where you don't have a track record. Yeah, I agree.
And you hear the stories, whether it's like a house flipper or whatever, when it comes to real estate investments of, like the third or fourth deal in, or maybe it's somebody had the relationship, but it's like, well, how do you go, like, how do you acquire that first deal when you don't have when you're getting the investor without the track record, just for anybody that's listening that maybe has the desire, because I think all of us real estate agents, like deep down, we all have the dream of becoming our own client.
Correct.
Right? What did you go through to acquire that first deal, and what kind of advice would you have for those that are watching and listening?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually bought my first deal with no money down, which is very difficult in the commercial industry. So when it comes to multifamily, there's something that's called hard money. And and everyone knows what earnest money is. It's a deposit you put down, and the more earnest money, the more serious you're doing, or you're more serious you are as a buyer to acquire the property. When it comes to multifamily, you have to what everyone is doing now is you have to put hard money down, which means you don't get the deposit back. So we're seeing anywhere from $200,000 to $1.5 million hard, which is big risk too as a buyer. And it limits your negotiation if there's any repairs needed. So I knew acquiring the first deal, I needed to get the money. I need to get money and put it down as a hard money. So from there, when you also go into the negotiation at the very end, for multifamily, it takes a while. 4 to 6 months to close, depending on the deal and everything. But you have a buyer call with the seller. So after you submit your LOI, letter of intent, you have to then have a buyer call with the seller. And it's nerve-wracking because the buyer could be a large institution, could be another private equity firm, but they nail you with questions. And the first question they nail you with is, what is your track record? What have you closed on? And leveraging your coach's track record, because your coach is part of your company as well. You've hired him to basically advise your company. You can use their track record as well. So I leveraged his track record and his success and our partnership together within this company and what we expect with this company and growing this company. And I believe that's helped tremendously when I was acquiring my first deal.
Yeah, love it, dude. And so just to, because, you've got, when you say earnest money goes hard, and then with hard money, because then you also have hard money lenders, right at
Correct.
So you're talking, when you said zero down, you're just meaning I had to come up with the earnest money that instantaneously went non-refundable.
Correct. Yes. And when it comes to multifamily investing, you cannot, it's against SEC law to raise for the earnest money. So I had a very close client and friend of mine who trusted me very well, and he trusts that I'll reach my goals, that he gave me a loan, a personal loan for $160,000. And I had to, if I lost that money, I would have to pay him back within 2 years. We didn't lose the money because he trusted me and he knew I would get the job done. But I put that down as hard money day one. Yes, there were some nights I lost a little sleep, but that's the name of the game. And I was confident in my ability to raise the $2.1 million total to get that deal done.
Do you, because dude, like that, that takes balls, right? Do you think that, you have the education by this point, best of the time to know what you're doing, right? But still, man, that's a risk, a gamble a lot of people don't take. But do you think that, like, your upbringing had a lot to do with that, right? Where it's like, man, like I've had money, I haven't had money, and life's good no matter what, still, like, you had so many different experiences, on the income level curve.
Oh yeah.
That allows you to take more risks or
I think so. I don't mean to interrupt. I 100% agree with you. And I think the biggest thing is taking calculated risk. A lot of people don't take calculated risks. Bitcoin, they're just going to throw money in Bitcoin. Well, really calculate it. Is it a good investment? What's the outcome? What's your risk involved in it? So I would say I took a very calculated risk, knowing I had the people lined up ready to go to make sure that we would get the job done.
Yeah, and you're taking a risk on yourself, right? Oh. So it sounds like a lot of it then comes to take those calculated risks are in your own ability. Like if you're going to bet on something, bet on you, right?
Correct. And the biggest thing is betting on yourself is hiring a coach for yourself as well. I believe it's Warren Buffett. It may be Warren Buffett. He says is that, invest in yourself. And I always say that invest in yourself first. If you're going to hire a coach, invest in yourself. People will say to me, well, my coach is currently $50,000 right now for a one-time fee and then $250 a month. Not anyone can just drop $50,000. And some people ask me, what's your recommendation on them? And I said, well, it's an investment in yourself, and also it's it's a business expense for your company, but invest in yourself because you will feel that confidence. You'll feel that energy to go ahead and take risk like I did and to come out on the rewarding side of it.
Yeah. Love it, dude. Love it, man. So what are, a lot of times when we get into new ventures, there's obstacles and struggles that come in front of us that we didn't prepare for, right? And it's kind of inevitable in business. What have been some of the, those struggles and obstacles that you've had to overcome that maybe you didn't see or weren't prepared for, thus far into this new venture?
Yeah, I love that question. When it comes to raising money, whatever you think you can raise, cut it in half because life happens. Just like we were discussing a little earlier, there was a electrical issue in the building that you had because of animals. Life happens to you. So you don't know what's going to happen. And when it comes to the deadline, I always, you make sure you raise 15 to 20% more than you need to raise for a particular deal like that, or for anything. And if you're raising money, because sometimes people need to back out because life happens to them. So I would say underestimating the ability to raise a certain amount of capital going on my first one. I think that was very big. But you'll learn. I learned very quickly from any roadblocks or any mistakes. I wouldn't say that's a mistake, but any roadblocks that I come across. And I always say a fool makes the same mistake twice. It's true. I mean, you're a fool if you make the same mistake twice. Learn from your mistake and then take that and keep powering through. And then I think the biggest thing too is, as entrepreneurs and business owners and hopefully $1 billion business owners soon, it's you always have to push, always keep pushing, never give up. And then when people, say no to you, just keep pushing. Because there's a yes out there. So I would say just those little tiny roadblocks.
Yeah, all those cold calls probably help prep you for.
Oh, those cold calls. That did. Yeah. I mean, I took a lot away from selling residential. And when you get yelled at, and I started out door knocking expireds and withdrawals. And then I realized, well, if I'm going out and driving the whole day to knock on 10 doors across the city, I might as well just call them because I can reach more people. And then getting yelled at, cussed at over the phone. Yeah, that will wake you up. After a while, you just don't care, what someone says to you or how the outcome is.
So then now to hit the goals that you want to hit, I mean, are you focusing primarily in the Carolinas, or are you buying property that meets your buy box all throughout the nation?
Great question. Just like you said at the beginning, be a market expert. We are a market expert in the Carolinas. We do have Orlando and South Florida on our radar currently, and Atlanta, Georgia, but that is on the back burner. Right now, our primary focus is Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte, and Charleston, South Carolina, because those are extremely hot markets. We can find deals in those markets, and we know those markets. We're market experts, and that's another reason why investors invest alongside of us and in our company is because they know we know the market and we are embedded into these markets. So those are what we're focused on right now.
Love it, dude. So then, it's sometimes when you're at different stages in life, your drive and your desires can change. Right. And now it sounds like you're engaged now, and you talked about driving by your old house with your fiance and the kids, and right now that you have a family and other things, and also that you're making money, right? What keeps that drive alive, and what keeps you from the worst enemy to greatness is good enough, right?
Yeah.
Like what keeps you from falling in that trap and keeps you driven, especially now that you're in a different phase of your life than when this journey first started.
Yeah, you can say that again. You're 100% correct on that. To really break it down is my goal to leave a legacy. Because that goal's so broad, you can't really put a number on if you achieved that or not, or not. And then also my goal for the family and the number to achieve for the wealth side for the family. That right there, I think, is a huge goal, and you're going to have to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. And it's just keep pushing. And the biggest thing too is when your family's watching you, you don't want to let them down. If you put that on your shoulders, is not letting them down, to push yourself to reach that goal, to push yourself to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning and to start work to make sure that you're leaving a legacy also for them too.
Yep. Now, a question I constantly get, right, is a question on balance. Right? Man, I'm a driven entrepreneur, right? But man, I need to spend time with my family because then my family doesn't buy into what I do. And I mean, what does that look like, for you? I mean, how do you, if there is such a thing, balance it?
No, there's always such a thing because you have to balance it. Time management is extremely important because I watched a documentary on Bill Gates, and they said Bill Gates is always on time. And the reason why is because he knows that's something he can never buy is time. So the biggest thing I do, and I do sometimes, I'm very bad at the time management portion, but I have carved out now after 6:30, depending on if it's a major emergency issue that I have to use my laptop for, around 6:30, 7 o'clock, I do get away from my desk, and I will only answer emails or anything like that on my cell phone, but I am implementing that of just family time, spending time with family, and doing that. But when everyone starts to go to bed and starts to sleep, that's when I do crack open the laptop in the bed and work a little more, and then wake up real early and do that before they get up. So it's as an entrepreneur, it's really you got to limit your sleep hours. I hate to say that, but you just have to reach your. Well, it depends on your goal. My goal is very big, so I have to limit my sleep hours. But that's just what I have to do before they wake up and when they go to bed.
Yeah, success doesn't come without sacrifice.
That's right.
Pick and choose what we're willing to sacrifice.
Correct.
Your priorities in alignment. So
I agree.
You mentioned that you exited from selling real estate. And, I've got myself in made the mistakes by overcommitting, starting too many companies at once, having too many ventures where my focus got diminished, and I kind of gave a half-ass effort of mine to all things, and
correct,
and everything starts to implode, right?
I know.
Is that really your decision of kind of cutting the cord there? Like, I mean, are you just in a hardcore belief system of for me to achieve this, I've got to give all of me to just one thing and
yes,
all there?
Yes. I'm a very, very big believer in giving it your all. Focus on your one thing, grow that one thing so substantial where then when you have the money, you can go ahead and dump $1 million towards another investment and see if it works out, but it won't put you or your family in a financial deficit. So I'm a big believer. Just focus on that one thing. I had a gentleman who's an investor in our company say, hey, would you like to invest in a franchise? And I said, send it over to me. I'll take a look. And I looked at it and I said, I don't want to invest in franchises. I said, I'm sorry, but I need to focus on my one thing. My one thing is buying real estate, making it extremely profitable, selling it or holding it. And then again, you also got to think as investors that invest in my company and alongside of us, they want me to just be focused on it. If you invested with us and alongside of us, you want me to be 100% focused on that deal and making sure it's profitable. You don't want me, focusing on other aspects of something else. So I'm a big believer in just focusing on one thing. thing. And once that one thing is at a wonderful level where you're producing a lot of income or it's growing at a substantial pace, yes, you can go ahead and then start diversing your portfolio. But I focus on just one thing until I'm at that point.
Love it, man. So knowing everything that you know now, if like Chris right now today could go have a conversation with Chris right when you made the decision to leave college. Ooh. And again, knowing everything that you know now, and you could give yourself 2 pieces of advice that would just vastly quicken your trajectory to success journey that you're on. Mm-hmm. Knowing everything you know now, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
That's good. I would say always add value to someone. Some way, some sort, find a way to add value to someone and don't ask for anything in return. That would be the biggest thing. There's a Lamborghini club with here in Charlotte. I do not own a Lamborghini, just noting that on record. But there's a Lamborghini club here in Charlotte where I'm good friends with a lot of the guys in there, and I ride with them. And they refer me. Anyone who has real estate related questions, come to me. And a commercial and all that. So a gentleman asked me my opinion on what he should buy this commercial industrial building for. I gave him my opinion. He said, well, I'm an arms manufacturer. I can get you, any firearm you want or anything like that for free. I said, I don't want anything. I said, don't worry about it. I'm not trying to go ahead and I don't want to add value to someone and then automatically ask for something in return. So I don't do that. So the biggest thing I would say right when I got out, I would say always add value to someone. That's the most important thing. And then the second thing is, and I'll always say this, is never give up. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we have low lows and we have high highs, but our low lows are extremely low. A lot of times I know as business and entrepreneurs, we doubt ourselves. We, tell ourselves, no, we can't achieve this, or should we even try it? But I always say just go for it, never give up. So those are my 2 big ones.
Yeah, awesome, powerful words, man. And for those that are watching and listening that maybe want to, follow what you're doing on social media, maybe they want to talk to you about and see if there's an opportunity for them to invest in your fund, or they have, we have a lot of realtors watching and listening to the show that maybe have clients that want to park their money somewhere that's a, where they can get a good return on it. Where are the best places to get in touch with you, to follow you, all of that stuff?
Yeah, great question. I'm heavily active on social media. My Instagram's Chris_Salerno_. My Facebook is this Chris Salerno, S as in Sam, ALERNO. But the biggest thing I would tell everybody to go to investwithqc.com. That will direct you to our investor page. Feel free to fill it out and you can hop on a one-on-one call with me. We can chat more. And if you do have investors that are looking to invest, I will definitely welcome them and come up with a way to make sure that you are well taken care of as well.
Yeah, awesome, powerful stuff. And again, wherever you guys are watching and listening, we'll have all those links right below to make it super easy on you. And I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is just the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and taking massive action on it that gives you the power to go out there and create the life that you want and deserve. And Chris shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys. They take something that you learn and again, go out there and take massive action on it so you can go out there and create the life that you want and deserve. And Chris, I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Honor, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. Super excited to, I always love listening to you and super excited to be on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was an honor, my friend. Yeah, keep playing it, dude. And those watching, truly appreciate you watching it. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Take care.